everybody. Artistry and Finesse here. Happy August. I think we have a first here tonight, Finesse. You and I are starting a podcast, and both of us are watching the Pirate game.
I know. It's unbelievable. And not only watching it, but actively watching it. It's on national TV. Last inning, I believe it was the fourth inning. Starling Marte comes up. 3-0 lead. Runners on second and third. Line drive single to center field, not only scoring 2 runs, but then takes second base as if he was just entitled to it. And
a measure of redemption for young Mr. Marte, who I understand really botched everything last night.
I understand the same, and you'll note that neither of us are saying that we actually saw it because the chances of staying up to watch a 14-inning game in the middle of August on a weeknight.
Let's not get carried away. It's a big deal that we're watching it all. Can't watch it like you watch a Penguin game. Can't watch it like you watch a Steeler game. It's just sort of, you're in and out as it suits you. But my question for you is, what did we ever do in August before this? For the last 20 years. It's such a slow month otherwise. There's just nothing going on.
No, and it's such a strain to come up with anything to talk about. I mean, you and I are doing this podcast. I don't have anything to talk about. I don't know what we're going to say. I wrote a couple things down maybe that we can discuss, but there's
nothing to talk about in sports, and apparently there's nothing to talk about in life because the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is doing news editorials on Sidney Crosby cutting the line at the DMV.
Maybe like the lowest of low in the history of journalism was the editorial criticizing the DMV policy. Now, it's like
that was the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just pack up your tent.
It's like,
I mean, that is just disgraceful.
Right, and I don't know how an editorial board works, but is it just like it's unsigned, so it sort of speaks for the paper, and there has to be there has to be somebody there who, I think somebody needed to do a hunger strike or chain themselves to the printer and say, I am not letting this editorial come out, under my name. I'm an editor here. I don't want this.
It's unforgivable. I mean, we forgave them for employing Ron Cook and paying him to write a column every other day. I don't think that we can forgive them for this. It's so bad.
What's your take on the whole Crosby situation?
What's my take? I mean, I couldn't care less about anything in the world. I don't have a take. Please. I mean, I care about, the lingerie women's football league more than I care about this. I mean, it just doesn't matter to me.
What's that soccer team in Pittsburgh? The Riverhounds?
The Riverhounds. I care far more about the Riverhounds.
Is that a men's team or a women's team?
It's a men's team, and actually, it's quite an attraction just in terms of the venue. It sits on the south side with this fantastic view of the skyline and the point. It's really a great stadium. I've never been to a game, but I can see it from my office. It's a terrific little park there.
Now, I don't want to speak out of line, but is this something you'd ever consider taking your children to go see?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little presumptuous to think that you could put yourself in my shoes as a father. But now that you mention it, that's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
maybe
probably,
I should take them to
probably
a Riverhounds game.
A nice low-cost family night out on the town,
Yeah.
I don't know if Little Artistry's playing soccer yet. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
in his soccer league, are they keeping score?
Well, he's actually. I just signed him up for a soccer league in the fall. He could really care less about sports. He's very much a free spirit, a very independent child. We were playing wiffle ball at a picnic the other day. It's the middle of the first inning. He's in the field. Everybody's focused on the pitch to the batter, and he just looks at me. He's like, "I'm out of here, Dad." And he just walks. He's done. So I don't know that that's going to be his thing, but we're going to give it a try.
So nothing came about from you giving him that Heinz Ward doll a couple years ago that you would always kind of put in his hands and say, here, a little artistry, here's your Heinz Ward doll.
Yeah, I did my best. I had a Sidney Crosby action figure for him. He had a Polamalu shirt, and he knows those guys. He knows them. He knows their number. He talks about them. He could care less about watching them. He gives lip service. He says, "Daddy, let's watch some hockey," and I'll put it on. And after 30 seconds, he's like, "All right, I'm ready for Legos." He just does it, just to be one of the guys, but he doesn't care, and he may never care. But I say more power to him. Do your thing, little artistry.
I want to get back to the Crosby to DMV situation.
Yeah,
I want to be like the Post-Gazette where we sort of talk about it and then let everyone else.
We shouldn't let that go. We should not let that go.
I think every 3 minutes on the podcast we should just come back to it because it's a story that simply won't die down. Now, if you're why hasn't Crosby come out with his own sort of statement on this situation?
Crosby should definitely have a press conference with doctors.
What I want to know is, what is he hiding?
I want to know if this is a concussion symptom.
I think there's some sort of I think there's a conspiracy going on here.
What are they trying to hide?
Well, that's what I'm asking. That's what I want to know. I just think I want to do that thing where you basically you just frame everything as a question so that you don't sound stupid for coming up with dumb propositions. So you can't say that Crosby wasn't there selling drugs.
You can't say that Crosby wasn't there because he wanted to distract from the real story, which is that Evgeny Malkin would really prefer to play for the Dallas Stars.
All I want to know, I just want answers. I'm just asking the question. Don't come down on me. I'm the one asking the question. But you're right. Maybe it was a tactic to distract from the Malkin situation. Another thing that's a total non-story to me. I don't know. I mean, Dallas denied it vigorously that they ever gave Malkin any sort of offer. I tend to believe Dallas on this front. I think there was probably some communications via agents and stuff like that if Malkin were to hit free agency, that Dallas would be interested and they would offer more money. And then when you put in his dad and now you're dealing 3 or 4 people down the telephone line and you put a language barrier on top of that, it makes it look like something nefarious was going on. But I don't think anything was up.
Whatever. This is real life. It's like what's his name in The Bachelor said when they caught him talking about what would happen if he didn't win The Bachelor. He wanted to go meet other women in Chicago. That's just real life. That's what men do. And similarly, men, when they're in contract negotiations, say, well, if this doesn't work out, maybe I'll go play for Dallas. Same thing. Perfect analogy by me.
Yeah, that was flawless. I have nothing to add to that. I mean, that was really just textbook execution. Have you been thinking about that all day?
No, it just came to me. That's what makes it so special. You know what was actually a real story this month that got very little play, but which I think is a great sign, is the Jacques Martin. Is it Jacques Martin or Jacques Martin? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a good signing, a good hiring by the Penguins. Former head coach of Ottawa when they were actually good signs on as an assistant to Dan Bilesma. It sort of reminds me of back in the early 90s when Craig Patrick made the move to hire Scotty Bowman as a consultant. It's a good sign when you're bringing in the best people and you don't feel threatened by them. Your
segues tonight are unbelievable, by the way.
I'm on fire.
You really are. You're shot out of a cannon with the segues. The thing I like about bringing in Jacques Martin, or Jack Martin, as we may call him from time to time, is that the one thing that's been missing from the Penguins the last few years, or that we've never found ourselves saying, is that the Penguins out-coached the opposition, or that the Penguins seemed like a very well-coached team. I mean, there's probably been games we go back that, Bilesma's system was really grinding the other team down and all that. But from a season-long systematic perspective, the Penguins have never seemed to have that coaching advantage in the last few years where we're really putting the onus on the other team to make some adjustment to us.
Yeah, at least not in a playoff series. taken as a whole, a 7-game series. I've never seen that.
Right. And I think that bringing in a guy who can focus solely on tightening up the defense is huge. I don't know how much of a role he's going to get. I don't even know if he's going to be on the bench. I mean, I think I saw some talk that he's like going to be up in the booth during games.
I don't know, but just if it's somebody that can go to Bilesman and say, nobody is going to the net, we've scored 2 goals in this 7-game series, and we have not won a game, so something needs to change. Somebody with credibility, I think that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, but I look at it I'm hoping there's more of a practice impact in kind of just attention to detail in the defensive zone. That's really where the team has struggled over in the past couple of years.
But just looking at the Boston series, the issue I don't think was attention to detail in the defensive zone. I think it was more that they weren't generating any offense against the Bruins. I thought that they played well the last few games, last 2, I guess, against Boston. Very well defensively, about as well as you could play.
Right. Well, you're right. It's the fresh voice. It's the different respected perspective that I think is invaluable. Because Biles he's a good coach. He's got a cup. He's coaching the USA, but he's very stubborn. And I think a lot of coaches are stubborn, but you can get it. That's why you need to bring in a different perspective. You kind of need to force yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I hope that Martin takes Dan Bilesman out of his comfort zone. Speaking of the Penguins, we've been doing this. We've been going through the season. We've been going through the schedule of the 2013 season. We're through December. The Penguins ended December pretty hot. I think the Penguins had a very good late December of 2013. You might be wondering.
Now, just to be clear, this is your complete hypothetical. There's nothing real about what you're saying. This is just you're saying how this is going to play out.
Well, it might be hypothetical to you. This is reality to me.
I see.
I've gone through this.
You're not constrained by the rules of time and space.
What I've been doing is going through every game of the Penguins schedule, telling you the score, and giving a few sentences about the storyline of the game. Even who scores, who gets hurt, who gets a penalty, and when. And I don't see anything in here that's implausible. In fact, I think it's exactly what's going to happen. And I have the Penguins. I have the Penguins coming out of December with a record of 24-13-5 with 53 points. And Crosby, he got hurt early in December. He did one of those moves where he was going like Mach 3. He hits warp speed.
Right.
And he's just toasting a defenseman, and the defenseman kind of doesn't do something dirty, but gives him a little push to knock him off balance, and he goes into the boards feet first, high ankle sprain. It's Brad Stewart, by the way, who's the defenseman that pushes him to the boards. But the Penguins just stay rolling through December. Do you think, in reading the October, November, December previews, is there anything that jumps out to you as erroneous in those previews?
I'll tell you what jumps out to me, and is more clear than it's ever been, is the 82-game NHL season is interminable.
It's ridiculous.
It's so long. And what jumps out at me is that you could really do away with these first 3 months of the season, and everything would be fine. I mean, do I like, a lazy Tuesday night in October watching, a West Coast game, Penguins at Anaheim at 10:30 at night when I really should be going to sleep? Of course I like that. I love that. I guess theoretically would miss that. But in reality, would I miss it? I'm not sure. Because I thought that last year was fine with a lockout shortened season.
Yeah, it's fun to watch Malkin get a hat trick against Columbus on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, any Penguin game's fun.
But it's meaningless.
Correct.
82 games is so much. I mean, take it from me having to trying to write about 82 games before those 82 games even happens. It's a lot. I mean, there's so many games, and like each one in the moment seems meaningful, but when you kind of zoom out, it's just like, what is going? I mean, it's just crazy that they play so many games.
It's terrible. There's nothing erroneous about what you said. It's all true. They'll have hot streaks. They'll have horrible losing streaks where everyone thinks Bilesma should be fired. They'll get into the Olympic break and they'll come back on the stretch run. They'll put together a nice series of games, and they're going to hit the 100-point mark like they have. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you'll have to look this up. I'm not going to do it. I think the last 6 non-lockout seasons we've had 100 points every year.
Yeah, it's been just about 100, which is a little bit deceiving with the 3-point games now. But
but it'll still get you in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, I mean, the Penguins, in my opinion, in this new division that they're in, are pretty much the only lock to make the playoffs in that division. I think the other division is a lot stronger. I mean, I'm going to pull up and see exactly who we're with, but there's no one in the Carolina, not a guarantee. Jersey, Islanders, not a guarantee. Washington, not a guarantee. Columbus, not. Maybe you could say the Rangers and Flyers, like maybe guarantee, but I'm not saying the Pens are going to win the division, but I don't see us not finishing in the top 3 in that group.
Yeah,
so
I agree with that.
I have the over-under before we move on to the Steelers because I want to talk about the Steelers. I have the over-under on rumors about Malkin being unhappy in Pittsburgh and having a secret contract to go back to Russia. Friday the 13th in December. Friday, December 13th against the Devils. Do you take the over or the under on when that rumor first floats?
That he's unhappy and would like to move on.
That at the end of the season he's going to stay in he's going back to Russia, or even more aggressive, that he's just not going to come back from the Olympics.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to take the over, meaning it's going to happen after December 13th.
You say
that's going to be an Olympic story.
Yeah, somebody will start a rumor that they heard that Malkin, he's so happy being back in Russia, he just wants to stay after the Olympics.
There's so much pride. Yeah.
Yeah, man, he loves Russia so much that like 6 years ago he left Russia. He snuck away from his team plane in Sweden 6 years ago to come fly to Pittsburgh of all places. That's how much he loves Russia.
It's so sickening what the technological age has done to our sports fandom. I mean, can't we all just take a break? This isn't supposed to be a 12-month ordeal. Hockey is long enough, as we've discussed. It's like 8 months.
I think
we should be.
If anyone wants proof that it's not a 12-month ordeal, they certainly have it in the first 18 minutes of this podcast. At some point, you kind of run out of things to talk about, which is why we should talk about the Steelers.
Yeah, all right, that's fine. Fair enough, and a decent segue. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
What do you want to talk about? They're going to suck this year.
You think? I'm really like. I like the Steelers a lot. I want the Steelers to do well, but I'm almost just curious to see what would happen if they kind of bottomed out this year. Like, I want to see what the Roethlisberger quotes are and the Tomlin quotes if the Steelers drop to 4-9 at some point this year, And that's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I'm looking at the roster. There's not a lot of good players on the team. You would really struggle to find anyone on the team who's in the top 5 at his position in the league.
Yeah, I would dispute that. I can't really see them bottoming out like a 3-13, 4-12 kind of season. I could see 7-9 or 8-8 again easily. I think as long as you have a top quarterback, which the Steelers do, and a formidable defense, which I think the Steelers will have again, even though they have a lot of deficiencies on defense. I don't think you're ever going to fall that far. You could be mediocre. and I think we will be. I think if the offensive line actually stays healthy and performs to what everybody thinks its potential is, that they could surprise a little bit. But there's been no indication that the offensive line is going to do that. So I just don't know. People are high on this Le'Veon Bell kid.
Yeah, that would be great if he came on strong, but I mean, I'm just having a hard time expanding the window of the record anywhere outside of between 6-10 and 10-6, best case scenario.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think the team has been really poorly managed the last couple of years.
Well, the problem is we haven't hit a home run on a draft pick in like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. By all accounts, this draft is above average.
If you're drafting first rounders and all they become for you are just starters, like
right.
depends that or like the Steelers have, that's not good enough. Like then you're just going to be 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. Like the Steelers don't have studs. They're missing like real badass studs like they had a few years ago.
Yeah, like Lamar Woodley better have a big comeback year and be one of the best defensive players in the league, or we're in trouble. Right now Cortez Allen isn't healthy. He's supposed to be a really good player, but he's not even on the field. And William Gay is one of our cornerbacks. In the NFL, things can fall apart just that quickly. If you replace Cortez Allen with William Gay, you could fall apart.
And don't forget losing Keenan Lewis too, or I guess letting Keenan Lewis walk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good press for him out in New Orleans, saying that he's they're thrilled with him beyond anything they even imagined when they signed him. So.
Oh, you could tell that he was going to be a Pro Bowl player last year. I mean, he came out of nowhere and was phenomenal. The Steelers' position is that Cortez Allen is just as good, if not better. We'll see.
We'll see. He's from the Citadel. The Steelers have this weird thing. It doesn't seem like they always draft they like cornerbacks from bizarre schools, it seems like. I mean, Ike Taylor from Louisiana Lafayette. They got a guy from Furman in camp. The Citadel,
I mean, I think their position on cornerbacks is nobody learns how to play cornerback in college. You just have to learn in the pros. You just have to have the tools.
I guess, but it just doesn't seem. I don't know. It's not an exciting team this year. There's just not a lot to get worked up about. I mean,
I'll give you something.
If the Steelers are good, they're not winning games in like a cool, fun fashion, right? They're going to win a lot of like 20-17 games where they just get a lot of good breaks, kind of. The ball bounces the right way, the other team misses a field goal, stuff like that.
I'll give you something to get worked up about. Your favorite player from last season, rookie standout Drew Butler, gone, done.
What do you mean done?
I think he lost the job to some nondescript veteran. Brian
Moorman?
Correct.
From Pittsburgh State.
That's got to get your blood boiling.
Wait. When did this happen?
Training camp, my man.
Hold on, I got to Google this. You're telling me that Drew Butler, who had just some unreal punts last year, like really unreal punts.
I think that might have been unreal only in your mind.
No, I'm just seeing, okay, there's an update from an hour ago from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, which says that the battle is intensifying. And if there's one thing I know about Drew Butler, he excels under pressure.
I thought he was gone already.
No, they're saying, okay, this website is saying that the block punt was not Drew Butler's fault after all. I think what they're trying to do is put a little fear in Drew Butler. I think what happened is that Drew Butler read the press clippings last year and he got a little bit cocky with his punting. And now the Steelers are kind of floating this out there. They're leaking it that, we brought in this guy, Brian Moorman, and we might keep him instead of Drew Butler.
If Drew Butler was reading our blog last season, he might have gotten a really big head.
Look, we got a lot of followers now on Spreaker. There's a lot of people listening to us and following us.
I think we should give a shout out to some of our followers.
Well, we got I believe the Southland LGBT community radio is now following us on Spreaker.
Big shout out.
Yeah, we'd like to give a shout out to them. Thank you for your support. You have our support. Whatever we can do on our end to further the cause of the Southland LGBT community, we're willing to do.
It makes limitless sense that they're following us on Spreaker.
I want to get a list of some of the other names. We got a guy. Let's see. We got. There's a lot of guys that it seem like they might have a foreign situation.
Bent.
We have a follower named Fight Ignorance. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. It's just
we're on board. We're on board with that.
Yeah, ignorance is not something that we tolerate around here whatsoever. So Fight Ignorance.
Let's put a hashtag on this podcast. Hashtag Fight Ignorance.
Black Gun America.
Of course.
I don't know what cause that's for, but
naturally,
everybody should have a voice for their cause.
Sure.
And I'll just start shouting out some names. We got Muhammad Ishmael, Nick Van Dinteren.
Wait a minute. Let's just be clear. These are people that actually follow us on Spreaker. They're following our podcast. You may not think these people have anything in common. On the contrary, they all follow Get to Our Game on Spreaker.
Well, and they love the Penguins.
Yeah.
I don't see any other scenario that, you look at a guy like Prince Anjan or Fat Cat L. I mean, these people love the Penguins and they love The Bachelor. We got Steve, HF Steve follows us on Spreaker. We love him. He's a real person. Laura Kay.
Yeah.
We like her a lot.
Now we're getting into some real people.
Yeah, we got let's see, Beyond the Hype Radio. My dad.
At least we think they're real. I mean,
my dad follows us. He's a real person.
He's a real person.
Alicia, we know Alicia loves us. Strip Club Choppers, one of my favorite radio shows.
Terrific stuff.
I live in DC, as everybody knows. One other topic that's kind of hot down here, because I'm curious to what it's like outside the city. RG3 gets like unlimited press down here. I mean, they talk about RG3 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little irritated by it. I think it's a little bit much, and I think he's kind of getting a little bit out of control with he just talks all the time, and he's got a lot of Roethlisberger to him. Like, and I know it's very uncommon to make a cross-racial comparison, but I'm going to do it. I think he's got a lot of Roethlisberger in the way he talks, kind of like under-the-radar shots at the coach. A lot of like, I want to be out there with my men. I'm a leader of these guys, like kind of playing with this whole military angle situation.
Right. No man left behind.
Is that coming across outside of DC, or is this sort of just a local story?
I think it's pretty much just a local story, but I'm probably not the person to ask because I follow all these DC people on Twitter. So I see all the blogs in DC about him and what everybody's saying about him. And also, I might add, I don't watch ESPN ever anymore. And I know ESPN is talking about this stuff. So the answer is I have no idea what the perception is outside of DC. I'm very tuned into what's being said in DC. But I do think it's a valid comparison. He does fancy himself a leader of men. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a chapter in his biography called Leader of Men.
Does Roethlisberger have a biography?
Well, if he doesn't, he should. And I think we know who is best qualified to write it.
I think we could write it. I think he could dictate it to us. And we could kind of like interpret it as he's saying it.
And it would be so much more creative than your typical sports biography. We could do it in a Big Ben's barracks format. Like Big Ben writing to his diary type format.
What did you think about that article? This is a long time ago, a couple months ago from June, when the Post-Gazette, and this is real reporting. If the DMV thing is a joke, this is what real journalism is about. when they went out and they interviewed Ken Roethlisberger, Ben's dad, for Father's Day about his first Father's Day as a grandparent.
My favorite quote from Ken Roethlisberger was him describing the dinner that Ashley cooked for him. I believe he said, and I quote, "It was a cheese pasta with chicken in it, delicious."
Yeah, very simple family. My favorite part is that Ben Roethlisberger's father is named Ken Roethlisberger. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And he said,
you know what his mom's name is? Do you know what his mother's name is?
Jen?
Gwen.
Oh, God. What a family. And so
I just made that up. I have no idea. But it probably is.
It could be. There's probably Steeler fans listening to this right now, like screaming at the radio, like, how do you not know what Ben Roethlisberger's mom's name is? I know that Crosby's parents are Troy and Tina, though. But Ken Roethlisberger said about Roethlisberger's son, Ben Jr., when asked what he would call the child, Ken said, it depends who's around. If Ashley's around, we call him Benjamin. If it's Ben and I, we call him Junior. I just love the image,
fantastic.
The image of Ken and Ben and Junior, just the three of them with Ashley and Gwen, and in the kitchen making a cheese pasta with chicken. It's just so glorious. I mean, that's what Pittsburgh's all about, right there.
It's so beautiful. I love it. I think that's a good note to end on. Not that there's not plenty to talk about here in August of 2013, because there is. But let's save it up for next time, and we won't stay away so long. I think that probably only a couple of weeks away from like a Steelers preview, maybe a Penguins preview.
Yeah, maybe a fantasy football preview.
There's no telling what we're going to do, so stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, we covered a lot in this podcast, I think. A lot of good stuff.
I think all things considered, and I want to thank everyone for joining us, particularly the LGBT group, Mr. Muhammad, the Black Machine Gun Guy. Until next time, GTOG.